I didn't mean to. I mean, I had no idea that I was being bad. I just was thirsty. Just a sip of water is all I was asking for. I don't understand. They didn't need to put me in here. I wouldn't hurt anyone. I did what they told me, and they promised me my own room, but this is not what I had expected. I was one of them. I was promised a good place for me and my family. All you have to do is pass the bills I write, she said. So I did. We all did. We all were promised safe housing in their special quarters they were building with all that money from the bills they passed. Ignore the conspiracy theorists, they said. I see now they weren't theories. They were the truth. It was so easy for them to convince almost everyone that the people who spoke of an ending such as this were crazy, delusional, even mentally unstable. And we were nothing like them. We were part of an elite group, part of the government. Sure, we knew there were lies told. But it was to protect the world from panic and fear, which would turn into rage and backlash against us. They told us we took an oath to maintain the peace and safety of the American people. By the time we realized the truth, it was too late. It all came out faster than they had planned. The American people aren't stupid. We knew that. They chose not to believe it. Before they knew it, co-workers of mine had leaked videos. The videos were shared and had made it all over the internet in hours. They couldn't shut the internet down fast enough. It was a poorly planned operation. There were already riots, protests and massive crowds gathering the White House after the winner of the presidential election had been announced. The people knew the numbers didn't make sense. Then the president announced martial law. That's when things took a turn for the worst. The military was already in place. They had been being trained months prior. No one noticed. Everyone was too busy arguing over the virus, stimulus checks, the presidential campaigns and elections. There was so much distraction, so much to keep the American people busy. They were worried about their jobs, their bills, their children, their homes, and the deteriorating economy. The government had made such a huge mistake, and they knew there was no fixing it. They had begun to plan for a complete collapse of the economy and market crash. They maintained everything appearing normal for as long as they could. They controlled it all already. The news, the internet, and even us, the government officials, who were eventually lied to as well. They pulled us into a conference room. In groups of 10. They explained to us that before we could go to the new living quarters, we had to get tested, just a precaution they said. We were all so happy to be finally escaping the chaos, thinking the stress was finally all over for us. We boarded the government vans and off to the hospital to get tested we went.
This won't take long, we just need to swab you, and we will have the results immediately. If your test results show a trace of the virus, we have the vaccine on hand, and once you've received the vaccine, you'll be monitored for 48 hours, retested, and then released.
And that was what we were all told. The exact same line, from the exact same doctor. We were as distracted as the American people. Except with our own fantasies, of us and our families, being moved into the new special living quarters. Far away from the chaos and confusion. I was then tested. They inserted a long-stemmed Q-tip type of item way up into my nasal passage. It was quite painful. I remember thinking, why do they need to push that up so far?
Because we found traces of the virus in your test results, and have received the vaccine. You'll be spending the next 48 hours here. In 48 hours you will return to the hospital for a second test, just to confirm the vaccine has worked.
Not one of us thought anything was odd. We were treated respectfully, put up in very nice lodging, and had meals delivered directly to our rooms. We were even allowed to call each other, from one room to another. However, for our protection, we were told, We weren't able to make any outside calls. We were all told that our wives and children had already been tested, and have already been taken to the new living quarters. They were anxiously awaiting our arrival. This made complete sense to us, that we may have contracted the virus, and not our families, because we had been isolated in the government office we had been working in for over 2 weeks. Due to the riots and martial law enforcement,
We have run your sample through again. However, it seems that the virus hasn't been eradicated from your system yet. We have decided to go ahead and give you the second type B virus vaccine as well. The type B virus vaccine was created shortly after the original vaccine, as the virus began to mutate.
I sat there in the hospital room for almost an hour before the nurse had arrived with this type B vaccine injection, and the doctor followed behind to administer the vaccine.
Due to the differences between the vaccines, the type B vaccine has been known to have a few side effects. They aren't anything to worry about: slight dizziness, dry mouth, and minor confusion. These side effects can last for about 2 hours. So we will be asking that you remain here for 3 hours just to be sure you're stable before we release you. We'll have you back to your family in no time. Feel free to lay down and relax. Just push the button there on the bed if you need anything. The nurse will be with you just as soon as she can.
The doctor was not kidding either. I immediately felt somewhat foggy-headed, and decided to lay down. I must have fallen asleep. All I remember is waking up and being extremely thirsty. I have never been so thirsty in my life. So I pressed the button the doctor had told me press if I needed anything. No response. The dryness was so bad I couldn't swallow. I started getting nervous. I wasn't sure if I was having a severe case of the side effects, and my concern grew. I pressed the button 3 more times. Still no response. I tried to stand up to walk over to the sink, but I was too dizzy. I lost my balance and fell into the glass cabinet and fell to the floor. I couldn't barely speak, my whole mouth and throat were so dry. My fall made a huge amount of noise. That's when I saw a figure enter my room. My vision was badly blurred, and my mouth and throat so badly dry, I could barely speak. But I tried. The only thing that came out, when I tried to speak, was clearly not understood by the person who had entered my room. They told me to stop. I had no idea what they meant. They just continued to yell at me. I just needed some water, and I needed it immediately. There was obviously a misunderstanding due to my inability to speak. You cannot be in here making all this commotion. You cannot be slamming the medical cabinet around. What? I do not have time for these games. If you aren't going to cooperate and behave appropriately, then you will have to be confined like the rest. That is when they brought me in here. I was brought 3 bottles of water and a small tasteless meal. I remember looking in the windows of the rooms, as they carried me past them. Every single one of my colleagues were in these rooms. I don't know how long I have been in here, but I have heard a lot of what the doctors outside have been saying. From what I've managed to hear, things are not what we were told they were.